Hello, welcome back to Three Bridges. I'm Mark. So why are we staring at the wall of inspiration? This is what I have on my wall above, my desk of scratch building chaos. Okay. So coming up to about a year anniversary of starting the channel, and my first episode, which I recorded, sat in a vicarage in Yorkshire. I'm not a vicar, by the way, just renting. And I basically outlined what I was going to try and do, what was inspiring me to build the layout and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do for the next episode, so that'll be the November episode, I'm going to go back to that episode and sort of update some of the points I covered on the first one. I'll show you also my original rolling stock, none of which is on the wall here, that I had as a 9-year-old when I got my first train set that my parents bought me, and then a few engines that sort of appeared over a couple of years after that. And the main requirement for this railway was to reuse all my original stock, so I can still do that. But once I decided I was going to build a railway, I then obviously did like most people, went on eBay and bought stuff. So what I'm going to do for this episode, having bought stuff over a couple of years, I've never been able to run it because I've literally had like a meter of track that I could run it up and down just to check it worked and clean the engines up and stuff like that. At most I had a little loop that I could run around, so I could run in some new stock, but I've not actually been able to test any of the rolling stock out in anger to see if it just constantly derails, doesn't like points, how well it runs, all that sort of stuff. So for this episode, now that I've got my temporary loop for the next 6 months up in the loft, I'm just going to run everything, work out if I still like the stuff. What I'll do, I'm going to do a massive running session. I'll introduce you via timeline as I bought it, and you can see it, and I'll maybe explain a little bit about where I'm planning to run it on the final layout and whether or not it runs. The whole idea for October is, if at the end of having run everything, if there's stuff I don't really like, I will get rid of it. Because as I said, I haven't got a fiddle yard with this layout. Everything has to earn its place on the layout, whether or not it's on my Chiltern line, my Underground line, my West Coast line, or my East Coast line. So hope you enjoy it, and in the background you may also see a little bit of the update for the scenics that are happening between the Amersham and Moor Park stations. I'll be working on that in the month as well, but again, I've not got any plans to complete anything. I'm just doing stuff as I enjoy it and as I find the time to do it. Right, off to the first train then. So I should start with my first eBay purchase, which I call the box of crap. The box is the nicest thing about it, and this isn't even the original box. However, I do keep the contents for a very good reason. It has saved me a lot of money, because this was a late night purchase that I should never have made, as you will see, and it has stopped me making a lot of other late night purchases on eBay. But it's a bit of a disappointing place to start this, so I'm going to start this wind back to, I think it's about 2002. First child was about 8, and this is my first train set that you'll see a bit more of in the next episode. And I got it out, set it all up, and about 5 seconds after it started running, one of these carriages fell off and broke, with my son at the controls. So I packed it all away. And he wasn't interested in it. He was more interested in computer games. So now we come to these. So having told my wife's parents that I got my train set out for the first child to play with, I didn't tell them that I'd put it away and he'd broken some of it. And that Christmas they bought him 4 lovely wagons. But obviously he was not interested because it wasn't a computer game. So they went in the loft, and these are mint in the box. I'm going to get them out and have them running around. But obviously I need something to pull them. So about the same time, so this is about 2002, 2003, there was a toy shop in Melton Mowbray called Arbon and Watts in the High Street. It's I think it's an online store now, or may have gone. And I treated myself for about 80 quid to one of these. So if you watched before, you've seen this running around. I use this as my little test engine. So let's get them all out, and we'll start off pre-box of crap with some nice trains running. Okay, excuse the camera work. To the box of crap. So, as I say, it was a late night purchase. I think I paid 15 quid for this. So, 15 wagons. There were 16. I gave one away. One was a lovely old metal triangle 1950s wagon. I gave it to a friend who collects old, really old stuff. The important bit is, because there's no point in spending much time on this, it sort of taught me a lesson of look carefully, decide if what you're buying it for, and don't make rash purchases. What am I going to do with it? Well, they're just scrap wood. As a child, I remember two things in farmers' fields. So there were the old Nissan huts that they'd all bought from the RAF and what have you after the war, and a lot of these old wagons were just the tops were in farmers' fields, usually with horses living in them as a sort of temporary stables. So I'll probably put a couple of these in the background just to have as an old part of an old farm scene. I might use some of these again just in the background. There was an awful lot of old rolling stock kicking around. The thing that originally attracted me to them was I was thinking of getting like a set of 3 of the milk, because I had one already. I suspect with the rest of it, I'll probably just have a go at playing around at doing some weathering, and then I can just ditch them. But something to practice on. I suspect a lot of people will recognise this if you're in the UK. So it's a Hymac. So these ran on the west coast. We built them between 1960 and 64, something like that. And I bought it because I didn't really know what it was. I liked the look of it, but I hadn't ever seen one. I think there's 4 left in preservation. Need to think about this one. This was really before I decided I was going to do the Chiltern line. Anyway, let's see it run. Well, the Hymac's running a bit growly. I think it needs a good clean. It's been 2 years in a box, so I'll clean it up. But it seems to be running okay. I quite like it. So I've given the Hymac a good strip down, degrease, clean, lubrication, and it's running really smoothly now, so good. So this was the next purchase, so Ragley Hall. So it's a Hall class. I'd already got an Albert Hall from when I was a teenager, and I really liked the Hall engines. So I went for another one. I think I'll probably get it for a red one as well. Get the 3. So the idea behind this is there is a turntable at Marylebone Station. There always was back in the 70s and 80s, and so occasionally they would run steam days, and all the famous engines went down there. But I sort of thought I could have just a few steam engines down at Marylebone, which I then be able to turn around. I've just got to work out what I'm going to do at the other end of the Chiltern line to turn them around. But yeah, anyway, we'll get going. So the last August purchase was, I got 4 of these, and I sort of thought they would work quite well with my Steam days out from Marylebone when I occasionally run them. So we'll, I just had to change the wheels over, but I think I picked them up for something like 30 quid for 4 carriages, which seems a reasonable price. So the Hymac and the Ragley Hall, sort of 25 to 30 pounds each. So, and there's a lot of people going about, you know, the price of model railway is very expensive, especially for the new stuff. And I agree, you know, I have bought the odd new thing, and you do pay £400 or £500. But the most of what I was getting in the early days, I set myself a limit of £30 for an engine, £8 to £10 for a carriage. And if I could sort of get that sort of deal, I would be quite happy. And I often picked up some of the DMUs you're going to see in a bit, the older Triang ones. It was £30 for a set of 3, which to me seemed reasonable. So it wasn't expensive getting into the hobby in terms of the stock in the early days. You can do it. It's just, you know, there is so much second-hand stuff or third or fourth-hand stuff out there. It is just, you know, do you want the latest shiny realistic thing? You got to pay a lot of money. But to get into the hobby, you can pick up some nice bargains, as everybody knows. So anyway, let's get these running. So if August 2022 was dipping my toe in eBay, September, yeah, September went a bit mad. So start of September, I bought my first Class 37. Why? So as a child, I remember travelling down to London and then going up to Lincolnshire and walking past like 4 of these, just thundering away on the platforms side, and I knew that I had to have one. I really liked the Class 37s, and it came with a couple of carriages, so that was good. Then a few days later I came across this is a Class 40. It's one of the French Durf, however you pronounce it. It's sort of the 8 wheels. They put the extra ones on to help with the corners. I think they were harking back to steam. Don't know how successful they were. I don't know why I bought it. Don't know if I'll keep it. It didn't run, so the frame inside was broken. The person didn't say this, and you couldn't really see it. It took a while to realise. Anyway, I managed to get it a replacement part from a guy in Ireland. But I don't know. I think this one's going to go. Okay, then I went to my local model shop and discovered you could get the London Underground stock. Went back home, looked online, discovered that they pretty much sold out everywhere. So I immediately went back and bought one. Really liked that, and obviously you've seen a lot of that. Okay. Maybe the following week I got my first Triang DMU. So these obviously were in the original green. I painted them up blue for my Chiltern line. They went okay. I always wanted one of these when I was a kid. In the green, I never got it. So I suppose it was part of my wanting to have, and I knew I could adapt it to, it would look like the children's stock. So that was that. And then another class 37, because you can't just have one. And then before I made the final purchase, I'll come back to this one. Now I remembered at the model shop, they had a second box, and these were like gold dust. So I just went back and bought it. That was going to be my birthday present for the next year, I think. And then final purchase of the month was this. So I already have that, but that didn't run. Yeah, it had I'd taken it apart as a child. It just wasn't happy. The magnets had lost all the power. So I bought this as sort of a spares so that I could resurrect. So that's the original motor. It had all fallen apart. I tried to replace the plate. Some plastic didn't work. So that got cannibalized. This doesn't run, but my original one does. So it's October 2022, and I was quite restrained. So I tried to buy a second Triang, the green DMU set, and that sort of purchase fell through. And anyway, I found another one in October. As I was thinking, I'll have a couple to run down from Aylesbury, and also I've got a couple of steam engines to run up from Marylebone. So it's going to be, there's 3 platforms at Aylesbury, 4 at Marylebone. So I was sort of thinking I would be able to have a few trains. Well, having a bit of frustration with my old Triang. So this one runs smoothly. Never had any problems with this one running. This one just won't run smoothly. You're having to push it. With the loft being, 9 meters long, you can't. You just end up walking up and down, having to encourage it to go. So it's going for the scrap heap, I think. This is just try to clean it up, but it's scarily sparking. So I'll stick with the one. I'm going to go with the new Lemo stocks as they look closer to what I like. But I still like the fact I've got an old Triang, and I can probably use the middle car and make it a 4 car. So for this one, I need to have some sort of DMU at Aylesbury. I can't really remember what there was. They were building this massive Schwarzkopf factory, which basically got built on what was the old sort of steam engine shed area. So I don't need to bother modelling that. I might just have a couple of the ends of these sticking out the front of a small shed. I need to hide a Y behind Aylesbury, which is how I'm going to turn around my steam trains. So I won't get rid of them yet, but I think I can cannibalise the carriages for the seam. So November 2022, so another class 37, and it came with 3 carriages. I've probably got enough carriages now with what I'd originally owned. I think I owned 4. I think I'm up to 10 or 12, I think, at this point. And I also started buying a few bits of die cast. So there's the bus end. If you might recognise it from one of the early series episodes. So Barry and Steve, my dodgy builders when it comes to scrap building. I blame all my mistakes on them. I've been doing a bit more research since. Okay, so this is a couple of years ago, and what I've realised is that the 37s were rarely seen at King's Cross. They were probably Deltics. So that's one for the future. And I know there are some newer, nicer. I'm starting to drift away from Hornby to Bachmann as a better build. Anyway, so I've also got 3 of these. Last night I was running the first 2. So there's a Triang and a Hornby. One of the Hornbys is the one with rubber wheels, and it just doesn't like anything on my layout and leaving sticky residues. So that's definitely going. I'm not even going to bother to try to fix it. So I'll just leave myself with the 2 37s that run okay. So another one to get rid of, but it's a good process. Well, there you saw the last of the 37s. So I don't have a big incline that they have to go up on the Chiltern line. They would never actually run there. They would run on my West Coast line, which is an incline that takes about 20 metres in length to do at 2%. And it couldn't even do 2 metres at 2%. So even the best of them with a big speed behind it, you know, pulling 4 carriages was struggling. So, and I was planning to run it with 5 or 6 carriages. So I will ditch those, not a problem. And I will look out for some Bachmann Deltics. Anyway, on we go. Okay, so this is January 2023. And just one purchase. I bought this little green Beetle because this was my first car. I decided as well, because I'm tailoring the layout to key moments in my life, my cars can feature in it. So I had a 1971 Beetle. Okay, so we're now February 2023. There were 3 purchases. So the crane, I've been trying to get one of these for ages. We just kept missing out on the auctions. I finally got mine. So again, it's about 15 quid. This is going to go on part of the scene I'm creating at the moment at the back. So you'll see this popping up in the coming months. I won't say any more about that. It was about this time I was starting to think a bit more carefully about what I bought, and I managed to get 7 sea cows. So I'm really looking forward to actually just getting these running and seeing how they do, as I have not tried these at all. Anyway, I'll let you know how they run. This one keeps derailing, and you can see why. So this bogie is not level, the back wheels are up. I'll take a look. I'm not sure there's much I can do about it other than not use it. or background scene. Anyway, that one's off. So if you've been watching the channel, you'll have seen this one before. So this is my HST. So I do remember a couple of trips with my wife up to Scotland. My sister was living up near Inverness, and it was our first time on a 125. So it came with 4 carriages and the power bogey and the dummy. So we'll get that running around the loop as well. If you saw one of the early episodes, so it wasn't coping with the incline, but actually when I checked, one of the gears had been removed from the motor, so got a replacement, and everything seems to run fine. It's nice to having the HST running, albeit a squeaky gear, I think, and fix that with some grease. Well, that's means fitting a bit more with the Timsurf trackside cabling. Trying to get Amersham done. Well, the HST's been sneaking its way around the layout for the last half an hour. No issues at all, no problems with the incline, no derailments, got the full sort of 4 carriages and the 2 end units. So really happy. So on to the next one. We're back on the Wall of Inspiration again. This is April 2023, so we'd moved up to Yorkshire, hadn't sold. No, that's when it all started falling apart on the sale of our house. Very painful 6 months. Right, so I bought obviously the Bachmann London Midland before, and it runs just beautifully. Obviously it's newer. Why did I buy it? Because obviously I don't know how much I've introduced into the series so far. So I lived in a place called Long Buckby for 26 years. So Long Buckby is on, it's in Northamptonshire. It's on the line from Birmingham down to Northampton, and then it turns down to Milton Keynes and off to London. So that whole Rugby, Long Buckby, Milton Keynes area and stations, predominant part of my life for quite a long time. I managed to get the first set. In August I got a second set, so I'm now paying about £250, £280 for these, but they are newer, and as I say, they run very nicely. Probably going to run them as DC to start with. I know that if I do DCC I can get the sound and and there would be a possible way to do that, to run it up to near Rugby on the DCC line, although the line that goes to Rugby will be DC. this is my Lemo 107. They're probably the closest to the stock that run at Aylesbury to Marylebone. Eventually I stumbled across these, so I managed to get a set for about 80 quid. They run really smoothly, really happy. They tend to run them a lot whilst I've been doing the Marylebone Chiltern line, so I'll just let it run. And so I'll probably look out for another set, but I'm going to wait till I've finished Marylebone Station, so that's my treat for next year and the incentive. Right, so we're now in September 2023. Now, one of the benefits of living in Yorkshire is obviously you've got the Yorkshire Railway and you also got TMD, and they were pretty close to me. So one day I popped over to have a look, basically. I hadn't really gone for anything in particular, and I stumbled across these 3 coal wagons and they'd weathered them up. So Elders of Cardiff, Harrison's Gas Coal, can't see an address for that. This is the important one. Eels and Roberts, Coal Merchants, Long Buckby. So I had to have it. I've tried to look online actually to see if these actually really existed. So if somebody does know, please tell me. I knew Nick Roberts, he was my local electrician. But yeah, I've not been able to find anything. There is a nice little museum in Long Buckby, open on the first or last Sunday of the month, and they just have a huge photograph history of the village, so maybe I should pop in there one day and ask them. Okay, so my Azuma LNER. So why did I buy this? This is going to run on my East Coast line, and obviously if you've followed any of this channel, you'll know that I'm not planning to be up in the loft building this sort of main part of the layout, which is on the 3rd deck, till sort of year 6, 7, 8. So we're only the end of year 1. So why did I go out and get one? I stare at these in real life 6 or 7 times a day, so we're quite close to the East Coast line, and these are the main thing that run up and down. You have the Lemo train, the blue one, runs about 5 times a day. Occasionally see that. You then obviously get the cross country, which runs Edinburgh down to Plymouth, and you see that several times a day as well. And then very occasionally there's a cross-country one comes up from Manchester, I think, the Transpennine. And again, you can get the train, I think, from Hornby, but don't see that very often. And then there's a bit of goods traffic. What I was very conscious of is this is a very different beast in terms of a model train to everything else I've got in terms of rolling stock. So I didn't want to obviously build this incline at the back, which is going to take the West Coast and East Coast line, so it's got a track on it. So obviously next year I start at the bottom, the other side of the loft, with the London stations, and that will be the start of where the East Coast line runs from. So it will run round, join onto this incline ramp at the back, and then travel up to sort of join the next deck up towards the end of next year, and then on to years, I suppose 3 and 4 will be the next level up, where I'm doing the sort of run around my Northamptonshire lines. I didn't want to build all of that and then get one of these, stick it on, discover it doesn't run. So I thought it would be sensible to get the longer train with the completely different design. So the space under the wheels is really tight with this. It doesn't like track pins if they stick up more than a couple of millimeters. This almost has lower tolerance under the bogies than the London Underground stock does, and that struggles to run on 3rd and 4th rails if they're in the middle. So I can only put like the 3rd rail on the outside with my London Underground stock. And obviously the spacing between the wheels is even longer, so you've got to have 4th radius curves. So it's run around my 3rd radius curve at one end of the loft, where I've I'm not running it around the S sort of return loop. It doesn't like it. It's just too tight. This will be more 3rd and 4th, and there's also a second issue. So it's at this point here. So it's the end of the incline, and I've spotted that because the wheelbase is quite long, and these couplings are quite rigid. If you don't get it, always a way in it. Does it once, won't do it again. So here it was lifting on some of the carriages. It's just making me realise I need to be really careful. There you go, it's gone. So it's just falling off. So I'm glad that things are going wrong, because it's just teaching me what I need to look out for when I build the large incline up from my London board up. So I will be testing this thing in anger all along the way, just to check I've got the track laid correctly. So I hope that all explains the LNER. I haven't got any shots of it running apart from the small one you saw, because there's just no point. So that's all the rolling stock gone through. So it's been a useful exercise to show you what runs well, what struggled, and what I didn't really want to keep. So there's a few things that are obviously going, and I've given some space to give a bit of thought about some deltics for my West Coast line for the future. So something as well to think about. I've enjoyed it. It's been great to sort of see stuff running and just having it continuously running. These little coal wagons need a bit of weight. They're very light, but they are great, and it'd be nice to get a few more. I think a nice little long one. In terms of freight. So I always remember everyone used to talk about the milk train with Marylebone, which was the first train out of Marylebone at like 5 o'clock in the morning. So in terms of an industry, probably a bit of a dairy one for Marylebone, and then I'm just going to have like a couple of freight sidings at Aylesbury, but nothing in particular. My main freight trains are going to run up the west coast, so I've still got to give some thought to what do I want to have up there. But I used to watch long freight trains going through Long Buckby. They're all just the container freight trains. Up here is a lot more tankers that you see for the East Coast line, so again that'll give me some thoughts what to do there, but predominantly everything's going to be passenger trains. So you've sort of seen the sort of stock I'm going for. There's more to buy in the future, but I'm quite happy with what I've got at the moment. Keep me going for the next year or so. Anyway, as always, thanks for watching. If you made it this far, I do appreciate it, and maybe I'll catch you next time. Cheers.